Let's jump right into this explainer. Today we're breaking down the anatomy of a haunting, the midnight delivery. We're looking at a seriously chilling report from a college student named John. He experienced something completely inexplicable during what was supposed to be just a regular late-night pizza delivery shift. We're going to piece together exactly how a totally normal night morphed into a literal fight for survival. But first, I want you to think about this. Have you ever ignored a dangerous red flag just to make a little extra money? Be honest, it's human nature, right? We weigh the risk against the reward. And that is exactly the psychological trap John fell into when his shop's phone rang at 1 a.m. He compromised his safety for a bit of cash. And, as we'll see, that one decision set this entire nightmare into motion.
All right, let's look at Phase 1, the Midnight Order.
So, the sheer improbability of this order is the very first red flag. It's 1 a.m. A hushed voice asks for 4 large pizzas. Now, John was literally about to close up and head home. But the promise of a massive tip was just too tempting. I mean, we've all been broke college students, right? He desperately needed the cash, so he grabbed the boxes and headed out into the night.
Moving on to Phase 2, the red flags. The danger here escalates incredibly fast. Step 1, John finds himself riding down this pitch-black, unpaved dirt road completely swallowed by dense jungle. Step 2, the destination is this eerie, totally unlit house that genuinely looks like it's been abandoned for years. Feeling completely freaked out, John tries Step 3, calling his manager to back out. But he gets no response. You know that stomach-dropping feeling of being trapped? Yeah. Terrified he'd have the cost of 4 large pizzas docked from his already meager paycheck, financial pressure literally forces him to get off his bike. Which brings us to Phase 3, the climax. The progression of events from this point is incredibly unsettling. As John nervously approaches this dark house, a single light flickers on inside. This gives him a tiny, false sense of security, right? Like, okay, maybe someone actually is home. He rings the bell, shouts out, but gets total silence. He rings it again, and this time he clearly hears footsteps echoing right near the entrance. Still, nobody answers. Frustrated and honestly pretty scared, John is just about to turn around and leave when, suddenly, the front door slowly swings wide open entirely on its own.
So John cautiously steps inside this dimly lit hall, calling out, hoping someone will just take the food. Out of nowhere, a cat darts from under a sofa and runs into an adjacent room, and the exact millisecond it crosses the threshold, boom, the room's lights and a television snap on. And then comes an unmistakable sound, the mischievous, giggling laughter of little children.
Now, hearing that laughter, John's fear actually turns into anger for a second. He's thinking, okay, this is just a cruel prank. But when he storms into the room expecting to yell at some kids, the reality is so much worse. Instead of a prank, he finds 2 little girls sitting completely motionless on a bed, not laughing at all, just staring at him in this utter, dead silence.
John, still kind of holding on to his frustration, demands payment, telling them he needs an adult. The girls, they remain entirely mute. And then, as John looks closer, the color completely drains from their eyes. They just roll back, turning completely and blindingly white.
According to the report, in that exact moment, their silence turned into a dangerous, terrifying laugh. As this menacing, impossible sound fills the room, the 2 little girls slowly, silently raise their hands and point directly toward the doorway right behind John.
John absolutely freezes. Slowly, he turns to look over his shoulder. And there, standing right behind him, completely blocking his only exit, is the towering, terrifying shadow of a woman. The sheer dread hits him like a freight train. His hands just give out. All 4 large pizza boxes go crashing to the floor, and he starts shaking uncontrollably as pure primal terror takes over. It's fight or flight, and he chooses flight.
So let's look at Phase 4, the escape.
This all happens in a blur of adrenaline. Minute 1, John literally sprints out of the house, glancing back just long enough to see those 3 figures watching him from the door. Minute 2, he jumps onto his delivery bike, revs it, but the engine grinds. The tire violently punctures out of nowhere and the bike just dies. Minute 3, he's dialing the police in an absolute panic and happens to glance down at his rearview mirror. Minute 4, he abandons the bike entirely and dives straight into the wild jungle. Now, you might be wondering, why on earth did he run into the pitch-black jungle? Well, because when he looked in that rearview mirror, the dirt road behind him wasn't empty. The shadow woman and the 2 little girls were standing right behind his broken bike, slowly closing in. It was this visual that absolutely broke him. He threw the bike down, sprinted into the dense vegetation, and basically cowered behind a massive tree, literally praying for his life.
Fortunately for John, that frantic 911 call actually went through. Eventually, the wail of police sirens breaks the dead silence of the jungle night. Gathering whatever courage he had left, he runs out from the trees and flags down the officers. He drags them back to that ominous house, explaining the whole crazy story. The police do a completely thorough sweep of the property. And guess what? They find absolutely nothing. No shadow woman, no little girls with white eyes, just a single, solitary wildcat roaming the empty halls.
And this brings us to Phase 5, the dark truth revealed.
So the immediate physical danger had passed, but the true psychological horror of this story didn't really solidify until the sun came up. The next morning, John does some digging into the property, and what he learns causes him to quit his job on the spot. It turns out that dilapidated house had actually been completely abandoned for exactly 3 years. Literally, no one lived there.
And here is where the puzzle pieces violently, horribly click together. John discovers that exactly 3 years prior, a mother and her 2 little girls were brutally murdered inside that very same house. The silent girls on the bed, the shadowy woman, they aligned perfectly, completely perfectly, with the victims of this tragic, unsolved crime. He'd spent his entire late-night shift delivering food to the echoes of the past.
Which leaves us with a lingering, deeply unsettling mystery. Who murdered this family? And why are their spirits seemingly still trapped in that remote jungle house? It's a dark reality John is never going to forget. And honestly, a chilling reminder that sometimes the most terrifying red flags are the ones we ignore for just a few extra dollars. Keep that in mind the next time you find yourself alone on a dark road. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and stay curious.